This episode of Cognitive Dissonance is brought to you by our patrons. You fucking rock. Be advised that this show is not for children, the faint of heart, or the easily offended. The explicit tag is there for a reason.
Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago, this is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 434, and we are broadcasting live from the eye of Hurricane Florence. Give it up for Hurricane Florence. Visible from outer space if you want to see the whole thing.
Yeah, you can see it like from Saturn. Did you see some of the slick graphics though that the Weather Channel is using?
I was going to bring that up. There's this graphic, which like everybody has seen because there's like 130,000 comments.
Slick graphics.
That really show how wet Carolina's going to get.
The storm surge. And just the giant hole you can leave in the storm surge.
The amount of pounding that the Carolinas are going to take is fucking epic.
Ew.
I'm just saying this is one of those hurricanes with a brown eye. It's
I don't know that that's an epic pounding. There's a lot of, ow, let's just stop. Let's just not do that. It's not epic at all. It's like the least epic thing.
It's the worst birthday ever.
Jesus. I fucking hate my birthday.
Flag Day isn't what it's cracked up to be either.
Oh, International Women's Day. That sucks.
So, you know, like I in all seriousness, though, you know, I've read a bunch of articles about, you know, the amount of damage that they're expecting this hurricane to do. And they're thinking this is going to be a pretty significant event. And there's a couple of reasons. And like, it is one of those moments where you have to pause and say like, hey, it's worse because of the environmental damage we've done to the coast, right? Like it's demonstrably true. It's measurably true. And we are reaping the reward. I don't mean to like come off at the beginning of the show, but like this is happening this weekend. Yeah. Like this weekend, this hurricane is going to hit and it's going to do a tremendous amount of damage, most likely, according to all the forecasts.
Yeah.
And like you can watch it happen before it happens. We can be like, well, that's worse than it should be because we didn't pay fucking attention to anything.
It's going to be. It's going to be.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny too that you mentioned that because like every once in a while, some things will come across where I'll start reading about environmental damage, and all of the environmental scientists at this point have taken their large stacks of papers and just thrown them straight up in the air and walked off into the distance. They're just like, fuck it, I'm out of here. And they just quit. They're just like, I'm done. Because there's so many things that are so wrong with the environment now that they're just like, yeah, we're just not.
We don't care at all.
We're just not. Who cares?
We don't care at all.
No.
Like nobody cares.
Yeah, no.
Like nobody cares.
Yeah.
There's like, I was thinking about this too when I was reading a couple of these stories. Like, are we at a point where there is that kind of like fatalistic? Are we at the point of fatalistic apathy nationally about this issue? Have we
internationally, right?
Have we run?
I guess not internationally.
Yeah, internationally,
a lot of people. A lot of people in the world are very environmentally conscious. There's plenty of countries that are very environmentally conscious.
Yeah, right. Do you think
there's even some corporations in the United States that are environmentally conscious?
You know, like what I wonder though is like, have we worn this issue out so much without accomplishing anything? Because this seems to be a uniquely American thing that we're really good at. Like, we'll take an issue, we'll raise it up to a pretty high level, we'll make a great big deal about it, then we won't change anything, and we'll wait for all the energy in that system to peter out. And then, you know, like at some point, it's like, I can't summon the energy anymore. I'm thinking of like, remember Occupy Wall Street? How much energy and enthusiasm that had?
Sure.
And how big a deal it was?
Sure.
And then it stopped. after a while being the thing that everyone was worked up about. And I wonder if like we're
in the
getting
presidency. I mean, like look at the presidency.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Though? Like that level of fuck yeah, let's change shit. And then like nothing changed.
Yeah.
Still, more.
Yeah, it's marriage.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's marriage.
Like, how long can we sustain before we're just like, you know what? Maybe we deserve to have a giant garbage ocean.
Before we have to pay alimony to climate change? I don't know. How long will we have to pay alimony to climate change?
8 years, 101 payments.
8 years. 8 years. We're not going to live 8 years, though.
But do you think I'm curious about your thought on that. Like, do you think we're there? Do you think there's still momentum to fix things?
I think what we do is we do get frenzied about certain things and then we get fatigued. And you hear about them so much that you get fatigued by them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you stop worrying about it and it becomes the new normal.
Right.
And so what we're at now is the new normal in the sense that it's like here's my example. I'm going to die. I got maybe 40, probably 30, more likely 20 years left. Right?
Jesus, man.
So I'm dropping it as I go. I'm 15. 15 times. I'm like auctioning myself. Do I hear 10, 7, 7.
Nobody?
Do I hear 7, 6, 5. Okay, 5.
Can you make it through the evening?
Yeah.
Like,
probably
Jesus.
not.
I don't know how to edit this. It's all going out live.
You saw what I ate earlier. I had fries. I'm going to die early. But anyway, the thing is that I don't have a lot of time on this planet. I'm going to die. I don't have any offspring.
Right.
What do I care? You know what I mean? Like, I do care, but at the same time, like, there's going to be a level at the fatigue where I'm not gonna. I'm just going to give up. I'm going to be like, because I can't change anything.
Are you
about
there?
It. I am not there yet. I think I would embrace a lot of different things about climate change prevention. But I think one of the things that we've been tricked on, and I've read this several times, and I'd love it if somebody who knew about this sort of stuff would correct me if I'm wrong on it. But I've read a lot of things that say individuals can't change anything, really. It's corporations that have to change. It's giant corporations that fly our products across the country. Amazon's a perfect example of that, right? They fly our products everywhere across the country. They have, 2 days, so they're flying shit everywhere all over the country. They're producing so much more greenhouse gases than people, than any group of individuals you can muster.
Sure.
So the problem is that we're trying to approach and like being more climate conscious on individuals like us, where we're like, you could keep the fork when you deliver my food to me, right? The little things that we do, those things will never add up to real change. We have to, there has to be buy-in from large corporations. And if there isn't, there has to be enforcing of that buy-in by the government, which is what other countries do. They enforce that buy-in.
Sure.
That's the only real way to change things. And so, to be perfectly frank, of all the things I ever read about it, I feel powerless. I just feel genuinely powerless. I could not drive my car tonight and I could take the train here if I wanted. Those are options I have. But my contribution to global warming from driving my car from here to home versus what Amazon just did right now is, so minuscule. Even if 100,000 people decided not to drive their car 6 blocks, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And it's like, I was having this conversation with Haley the other day. Like, I still care about the same things I was worked up about when we met, and we were I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And there were all these social issues.
You and I met.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In my early 20s, I was all worked up about a number of social issues. And I still care about them. I just don't think I can do anything about it anymore.
Yeah.
So when I think about those issues, I care. And I think I was right about most of those things to be worried. And then I don't do anything different because at some point, what am I supposed to fucking do about any of it?
Yeah.
And like, I'm watching the news and I'm watching this hurricane. Like, I know it's a big downer, but like, I'm watching this news and watching this hurricane come barreling in. And we'll talk a little later in the show about, you know, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico and the damage that caused.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know it's happening. Like, we know. And like, if we are rational, there's so many things we know. And we're just we're just exhausted by all of it.
But and then
how do you avoid the exhaustion?
Well, I think also too, the thing that gets me fired up about it is our clear-cut attitude. It's something we've talked about many times on the show. It's the attitude of, I don't give a fuck if I light the world on fire today as long as I make $1. Like, as long as I make $1, I don't care how I treat this planet. And and it's an obvious philosophy that you can see in many, many businesses.
Sure. Yeah.
The only way to change it.
The quarterly earnings philosophy.
The only way to change it is by enforcing it through regulation. That's the only way to change it. But then you pull the teeth out of everything with when you put Pruitt in there, not anymore, but you pull the teeth out of a lot of that stuff, the EPA. So we are, the thing is that when you elect people that don't care or that say it's a hoax, I mean, we have a president right now who thinks it's a hoax, thinks climate change is a hoax. So,
so nothing's going to happen. I mean,
so nothing.
Bad things. Objective measures.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other way.
Right.
You're opening, you're just basically just being like, every day I release a can of Freon for my homies.
You do remember what he said about his hairspray, right?
Yeah. He doesn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever.
It's like, yeah, if I use this fucking can of aerosol in my sealed apartment, how is it supposed to get
There's no way it can ever get out. It's stuck. It's stuck in here. Like my hair. But yeah, I do feel that level of fatigue. And it's interesting. Why don't we talk about that story right now, Tom? Let's talk about the Trump story, because I think this does play into what we were talking about.
I think it does too. So this is from CNBC. Trump claims without evidence that 3,000 people did not die in Puerto Rico hurricanes, blames Democrats for inflating the toll. So Trump has said through Twitter, of course, that it's the Democrats who've changed the number from between 8 and 18 to 3,000.
Yeah.
And he says, without any evidence, he's in fact says like, they're even blaming people who died of old age on the hurricane in order to inflate these numbers to make it look like I did a bad job managing this hurricane.
Yeah.
That's just objectively not the truth.
Right.
Like, that is let's get that out of the way. Like, that is aggressively untrue. And we talked about this. Everybody knew this back when the number 8 or 18, whichever it was being reported.
Yeah, it was being touted.
Initially, the way that they were counting bodies was so conservative.
Yeah.
And so so much did not take into account all of the effects of Hurricane Maria. That number, everybody knew that number was going to go up. But the facts on the ground were in dispute. The place was a fucking nightmare. They still didn't have electricity. Nobody was putting the numbers together.
Yeah.
In the way that they needed to.
And Harvard or something, it was Harvard or Yale,
came in and said, well, let's look at the difference.
Try to figure it out.
In this time period.
Yeah.
How many unusual.
Exactly. Unusual, right? They were paying attention. They had a methodology. They didn't just go down there and be like, let's just fucking plus or minus 3,000.
No, right. No.
And just, with they didn't just guess.
Yeah. Very roughly, the method was, we expect a certain number of people to die through natural causes, to die through all of the normal course of events of life. Yeah. The normal death toll is approximately X. Let's look at the deviation from the norm.
Yeah.
And then let's examine the causes of death from those deviations. And they did. They did it in an individual level. They didn't just say like, it's about...
They didn't just guess.
Right.
And they also specifically talk about when infrastructure caused deaths. I remember specifically reading about how they figured in infrastructure, like the road wasn't open, so they couldn't get to the hospital in time, and the person died. That's hurricane related, man. Like there's no way to be like, that's not hurricane related.
Because if the hurricane had not happened, then that road would not have been closed.
Been fine.
Like, it's a super fucking simple piece of math here.
Same thing with communications.
Right.
And they went through and they named a bunch of reasons why certain people died. And all those people got thrown in. Here's what I heard this week. And this is something you said, similar to what you said last week. George W. Bush and all these other presidents, and I want to say maybe even Obama said this in his latest speech, and the fact like there are objective facts, and every president since before this president would at least try to talk about the objective facts. They would say, these are the facts. Now maybe we disagree about it, but let's figure out how we're going to have this conversation about it. I might have heard Bob Woodward say something like this recently in this week, but there's this concept before that the facts would be reported, and then we would have the facts, and then the government would try to defend itself by saying, hey, 3,000 people died. However, here's a couple of things that we should pay attention to.
Right.
Their infrastructure was poor to start out with. They didn't have a good electrical grid. That electrical grid was nearly falling apart before the storm hit. You know what I mean? Like they had like 5 or 6 things that they were like, look, we get that people died. We get that food sat on the dock. We get
before
that
the storm,
but we
did the best we could under the circumstances.
Exactly, right? Like you can argue and make the argument and still have that 3,000 number and have facts and then say, here's what we think. Here's why we think that happened. Yeah. And then the other side says, no, you were incompetent. Here's why it happened. And then you have an argument about that number and why that number means something. Right. And that's okay, right? That's kind of where we've been for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? We're not there anymore.
No.
We're at a place where the president says, that never happened. That didn't happen.
No, we've always been at war with Oceania. It's seriously some weird 1984 shit where you just restate something as if it were always the truth.
Right.
Despite it not having any relationship to the truth. Like,
that's not okay. I want to stop you for a second. Right. I was in the middle of the thought. That's not fucking okay. That is not okay. That's not any bit okay ever. Like the idea that we are growing and it's we're getting fatigued by this. He's been doing this to us for 18 months or whatever.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years, right?
Right.
We constantly say that's not okay. And we keep on hearing it. And we keep on hearing him deviate from this. And he keeps on lying and he keeps on saying large, provable lies. And we keep on saying, Yeah. Could you, and I listened to a podcast this week where they said, if he would have said something like this 2 weeks ago, or a year ago, we'd be running around like our hair was on fire. But we're getting to the point where we're just kind of hand waving it off. And I'm really afraid that once this president goes away, because I really do feel like there is going to be, I do think there will be a blue wave. I do think that there's going to be a push. At least, maybe he does win re-election, but I have a feeling like he's going to be very, very hamstrung by a government that is democratic. I think that they're showing right now some significant polls, although they're not things you want to write home about.
I'm a little gun shy on the polls.
The reason why you do want to be on gun shy is because the voters, and the registered voters that they poll, and then the actual voters can be sometimes very different.
Right.
So you got to be careful. But very large swings in large portions of the country lead me to believe that there will be something that, that there might be some real switching of some seats in the federal government, even though since 2010, the Republicans have been trying to gerrymander the fuck out of everything. They redistrict, and they've been gerrymandering the shit out of this entire country.
Once Kavanaugh is confirmed, gerrymandering is going to be the permanent law of the land. Because the Supreme Court's already declined to hear a couple of cases. So, we're fucked on the gerrymandering.
The gerrymandering will be fucked.
Yeah.
But in any case, I'm afraid that when somebody comes in, that they're going to do this too. And even if they're our guy, they're going to do this too.
Yeah, we've talked about does this set a precedent for new behaviors?
I don't want this to be the behavior.
Yeah.
I think that the other way, even though I see that as a cop-out when somebody says, it was 3,000, but blah, 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 blah. Just take, just fucking suck it up, whatever. But I see that as a cop-out. But at least that you're having a dialogue about actuality, right? At least you're having dialogue about something that's just having a dialogue about reality,
the truth,
about reality.
Right.
Now we're not even going to get there, because if he's saying this, like, let's say if he says that 3,000 people didn't die, what is Sarah Huckabee Sanders? How is she going to answer any of those questions? How does she answer a question about this? Because she's going to say, the president said what the president said, and that's it.
Well, there's no accountability. The president, the government at this point, like if we can just rename the truth, right? If we can just decide that true things aren't true and decide that things that never happened.
Right.
Like we're in a place of where we have lost democracy.
Yeah.
That there is no such thing. I don't care if you picked somebody. It's not a democracy anymore. When truth is not the thing when facts and truth are not the thing that we are responsive to anymore.
Yeah.
Because now what we are responsive to is the fiction in someone's mind who is more powerful. Now what we're doing is we're being ruled by like fucking Kurt Vonnegut. Like who can write a more compelling fiction?
Sure.
It's a crazy world. Like it's a crazy person's world. I share the same worry that like, if I am a political actor in the world, I'm going to look at this and say, this is an effective way to handle controversy. An effective way to handle controversy is to rename the truth. Just completely don't defend your position. Just deny the opposing position. Pretend it didn't even happen. Ignore the truth of the world. You know, like we're going to get into wars for this.
Yeah.
How will we know the difference?
You won't.
How will we know? We're going to get to a point very soon.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this too. Like we're going to get to a point very soon where it's going to be very easy to be tricked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're going to have to be super, super careful all the time. And we're not going to be because that level of diligence is exhausting.
In the name of Jesus, we speak that. Ora mana shanda karaba. Lo koremene bere jede kede burushida kidi berasana.
What kind of feeling? I'm high on believing.
All right, this story is from statesman.com. Former Texas regulator is out as CEO at biblically oriented oil firm.
Huh.
So this is kind of amazing. There is an oil firm. It's called Zion Oil and Gas. Big shock, based out of Dallas. And here's their methodology. They hire a geologist who loves Jesus, is a geologist. And the geologist goes to Israel and I guess wanders around with the Bible for a while and then does not find oil for 10 years. 10 years they haven't found any oil using the Bible. Here's what he says. He says, we make our plans for how and where to drill, but ultimately the outcome, that's in God's hands.
Well, then why plan anything?
I'll just randomly stick a straw in the dirt and see if you can siphon out some fucking oil. You idiot. You fucking goober. A decade, this dumb motherfucker is wandering around the desert of Israel looking for oil using biblical clues rather than his master's degree in geology.
Well, it's funny because like when you pick and choose your science, it's as good as when you pick and choose your geology sites, I guess, right?
He says his job is to bring the geology that informs the theology. He's so clever. Not clever enough to find oil, and your job is to find oil.
Could you imagine, though, if they like if they use theology to inform other forms of science, like women's health or something? That would be terrible, wouldn't it?
You probably got a piece of jade egg stuck in there or whatever.
We're just not going to let you get that.
Not
abortion.
sure how that works.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they kind of do that.
They kind of do.
Turns out.
Yeah.
Sad day.
It's amazing. You know what I wonder? How can your job be to find oil?
Or like climate change too. Be another one, right? Yeah.
Or
where they're
economics.
just like, well, you can't fucking do anything to the earth.
Right.
God said, go fuck it.
All we use theology to inform is
all the stuff.
Jurisprudence and science.
Teaching evolution in school. And,
education. And so pretty much
all
anything we
stuff.
can pass laws on.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything that we're passing.
Well, it's so effective here. I'm so glad we're using it in other areas. So
if your job was to find oil and then you didn't find any for 10 years, how were you employed at year 8? Like, if my job is to do something, I don't care literally what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think I can not do a good job for a decade
for that long
before somebody's like, now, all right, Tom, we've given you a solid 10 years to produce one success. What? It's not the cure for cancer. It's not like it's like some fucking research scientist trying to find the cure for cancer.
And it's not like nobody else has found oil in the meantime.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not Children of Men where there's like no pregnant chicks or whatever.
Like, you know what? Other people are successful at this job. You are not.
Yeah. Maybe go talk to one of those guys. Hey, are you guys using old books?
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you got? You found oil?
No.
What are you reading? Huck Finn? Reading Huck Finn? Because Jim, he was dark like the oil. You know what I mean?
He was dark.
Huck Finn, probably Huck Finn.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring Huck Finn.
We're using Moby Dick. Didn't they make oil out of whales
it
or
spurts.
something?
The sperm.
There was oil out of whales.
That's different.
Whale oil.
I saw that as a parody on Pornhub. It's different. Anyway, I read. Everybody reads. Whatever. I read a lot.
Lord, we just ask to be covered with the blood of Jesus. Open hearts, Lord. Open hearts.
Hey, so you remember that little case in Pennsylvania where they found like 1,000 people that were abused by 300 priests?
Yeah.
Little worse than the German Catholic Church. 3,677 sex abuse cases.
That was just one German gangbang, too. Jesus. Can you imagine if they uncovered more?
That was a wide angle lens. I'm just saying.
It's like Woodstock. What's going on out there?
Man. So this was it's from 1946 to 2014. The records were examined. And they have only about 4,000 cases. Now, I did read something that says that it's about 14% of the clergy. That's what that was accounting for, because it was
14% of the clergy.
It's not even 1 out of 5 that are raping kids. So really, the benefit of the doubt. Let's give it where it's due.
I want to read part of this.
Oh, okay.
The study concludes that more than half the victims were 13 or younger. Most were boys. Every 6th case involved rape. At least 1,670 clergy were involved. Both of these places reported. Another place wrote that 969 abuse victims were altar boys. And I got to imagine when you rape someone, you do alter them, right? I mean, there's no way you don't walk away from that unaltered.
Well, guess what, kid? You're an altar boy now.
This is again another thing that rolls back to what we were talking about before, that this is not an isolated incident. This isn't just one group of people. This isn't just,
anywhere they looked.
This is every single place.
Yeah.
And, like you said, how is this not being treated like this in every country, where they're just like, no, we're just going to look at the entire thing and just like collate all the reports we got, start doing some real massive investigations, and then just start claiming their shit.
Like, at what point so what I was thinking about with relation to this is that in some countries they've looked at Scientology and said, you're not a real religion. Right? We're not treating you like a religion.
Sure.
We're not saying you can't get together and read L. Ron Hubbard. No one is saying that.
You're just not tax exempt or whatever it is that
we are. Yeah. At what point are we going to look at the Catholic Church and say, you know what? You're not a real religion. You are a criminal organization.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
Maybe there are people that are genuine believers. Certainly there are genuine Scientological believers in the places in Europe where Scientology is not recognized as a valid religion.
Sure.
But at what point are we going to, or is there a point? How many thousands of people need to rape children before we say, look, it doesn't matter that you believe this real hard. This is just a criminal organization and you're not welcome here anymore. You're not welcome in our country you don't get the rights and privileges that are afforded to a religious organization. We afford the privileges because we assume, and that assumption is not valid, but there is a social assumption that a religion does good.
Right. It's going to do something good.
Right.
And we talked about that before. That, they say they're doing good and then they just like basically bought a nice car for the priest or whatever.
Well, and like how many soup kitchens equal one raped kid, right? How's that math work? I don't know how that math works, but I know that we have literally thousands of raped children over the course of decade after decade after decade in parish after parish after parish across all states, many countries. At what point are we just going to say you're not welcome here anymore?
I got a follow-up question.
Yeah.
What kind of soup are they serving?
That is a good question.
Cream of barley legal? Because if that's the case, I'm going to say one soup kitchen.
Soup kitchen.
I want to point out one thing that we deal with on this show all the time, and there's a group of people who claim that there's a pedophile ring in Hollywood. There's a group of people that claim there's a pedophile ring in deep government, like the deep state is fucking shuffling kids around. And there's a pedophile ring.
I know.
Like a literal pedophile ring that has been exposed that has thousands upon thousands of members.
Yeah.
And they've never even mentioned it.
Isn't that amazing?
I've never heard Liz Crokin
talk about the Catholics.
Point her half a finger at the Catholic Church. Haven't heard that at all. What I've heard is it's Hillary. Yeah. Hillary's cutting the face off a baby. Not that, 16 guys in this fucking parish in Germany fucking gangbang some kid or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, which is, you could find when they're talking about thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands, almost 4,000 people abused. They're talking about a span of time like this. We're talking 20, 30 year spans of time that these people are being abused. This is a real pedophile ring. This is reality, right? Well, whenever they're confronted with these real conspiracies or real, they just pass their eyes right over them. It's always the stuff that's more intriguing is the fake shit.
Ready to stick it in the glory hole? Get links to their Facebook, Twitter, and if you still use it, Google Plus account at their website, dissonancepod.com. If you need to be all discreet about it, contact them by email at dissonance.podcast@gmail.com. Or you can call and leave a ransom message at 740-74-DOUBT. That's 740-743-6828. Want to hear Cognitive Dissonance commercial free and gain access to exclusive content, including full patron-only shows? Head to patreon.com/dissonancepod and become a patron to support the show on a per-episode basis. Love commercials? Not ready to become a patron? Give the guys a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. Or tell your buddies in the drunk tank about the show. We want to send a big sloppy glory hole to all the patrons and people who rate us. You fucking rock.
All right, Cecil, so we got to talk about this story. Don't link it. It's from the nyherald.com. The NY Herald is not a real news site, by the way.
It's not.
So
we looked at it today.
We looked at
together
this today
extensively.
So I want to call my stupid ass out, and I'm going to laugh at myself because I have been the biggest fucking chicken little fucking crying wolf guy about this subject forever. Talking about how we need to be more diligent about being careful about our news. I got taken by this story. So what happened just this week is I opened up my Chrome browser and I got this story suggested to me. And this story deals with an event that never occurred, a decapitated
That's
pedophile.
if you're trying to put it back on. It's
right.
Tighten,
just tighten it back down.
And then you decapaloosened.
Right? Decapaloosened. Oh, it's childproof. You gotta push
down on the head,
twist,
and then it pops off.
Oh, jeez.
Good stuff.
I gotta get the kid to open it. God damn it. So I was suckered into this story because it popped up when I opened my Chrome browser as a suggested story. And I think it popped up because it supposedly took place in my hometown, right? So I looked at it, I saw my hometown.
And you're a pedophile. And I think those two things.
And I was like, oh no, my head. So I clicked on the story and I read through the story and I didn't think too much of it. I shared it with Haley and I was like, hey, this fucked up thing happened in hometown. That's a fucked up thing. And then we had a whole conversation about this fucked up thing. And then she sent me a text message like, I don't think this is real, man. Like, I can't find this story anywhere. And then I looked at it and it was like, oh, fuck, it's fake news. I got fake news from Chrome.
Yeah.
Like from my Chrome browser. I got fake news. And I was, and here's why I think this is kind of funny. Because I do try to be aware of this. I do actively try to be aware of this. It's a real concern that I have. But I was reading the news while I was doing other things. I was not behaving. I was not thinking terribly critically. I saw it. I clicked on it. I read through it. I shared it. I did exactly what they want. You know what I mean? I saw it, uncritically read it while I was busy doing other things in the middle of multitasking. I thought it was interesting. I shared it. I moved that story along. I took that, and thankfully Haley was smart enough to say, like, that's not a fucking real, stupid. But like, this is how this stuff happens. This is how this stuff moves. Because most of the time, I think when we're reading the news, we're not reading the news as I'm going to sit down and read the news. We read the news on the shitter. We read the news while we're standing, waiting in line somewhere. You know what I mean? Like we do this, we consume, or at least I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it's not unusual. I see other people do it. I think we consume this stuff in ways that are casual, that lead to casual readings rather than careful, close reading. And I think we're at a place where, at least for me, I have to recognize that I did it. Like I took this fucking story at face value. I didn't research whether it was true. And then I passed that fucking thing along. Yeah, and I got totally taken.
It's interesting because we were talking earlier about like, what's the goal? What's your goal at this site? And what their goal is at this site, we found out, was to get you to click on a story about the Women's March.
Yeah.
That seemed really sort of vanilla-y.
Right.
Didn't really have a lot of
juice to it.
I felt like when I read it, I was like, eh. But every single story on this site has the exact same subline, even though the headline is different.
Right.
And then the story is about the Women's March.
Yeah.
At one point, they're like, use this in your meatballs, your meatloaf or something. And I clicked on it. And it's a picture, and it's a picture of an F-16 jet and a story of the Women's March. And I was like, I was intrigued because I was very intrigued to put F-16s in my meatballs. But, you know, the Women's March, there's no meatballs there. So I was just like, I was not interested. No, but like, it just didn't make any sense to me. So I wonder what the point is. Is it ads? You know, because it could be monetary, right? It could very well be monetary. And so, because this site is riddled, it's riddled with ads.
Oh, it's terrible.
And they're large, clickbaity ads on the bottom of the page and on the side of the page. And like we said, every single one of these stories, Tom noticed earlier that they spelled science wrong at the top of the page. So they spelled science wrong. They have a sport section instead of sports. So like once you stop for a half second and pay attention to this, you're like, oh my God, that's totally not a real site.
Right.
But if you're, like you said, just sort of moving through your day and zooming along. And so what I think is that you've just got to be real careful about your sources. There's another story we're not going to be covering today that you posted to this that I looked at, and I went to go see if there was somewhere else, because whenever we get a story that's from some not big news source,
right,
I immediately don't know if it's true, right? So I go and I see if I could search for it. Well, I searched for the story that you found, and it was something about holy water causing a cholera outbreak. And so I was like, well, let me see if that's true. And so I dug up and I couldn't find it anywhere. And the BBC link that they link to in the article, so they go out of their way to say
it does link to BBC.
It does link to BBC, but it does link to a cholera outbreak, but it never says that it knows what the cholera outbreak is from.
Right.
And so this story is coming onto our news feed and saying there's been a cholera outbreak because of holy water. A hilarious story for us.
Right.
Would have been, the jokes just tell themselves at that point.
Yeah.
But it's not something we can use because it doesn't reach.
vet out.
Yeah, it doesn't vet out. So whenever I look at stuff like that, I always think like, is it from a large news source? Because I do give a pass to like New York Times, Washington Post.
Sure.
I figure those places vetted their stories. LA Times, those places, Wall Street Journal, they vetted their stories. So I'll give those places a pass. But when we talk about these smaller local news sites, which is funny because a lot of people seem to favor these smaller local news sites. I think that you just got to have, like you say, a more critical eye. Just, are they spelling science right?
Yeah. This story's from Newsweek. Alabama pastor cuts up Nike gear from Pulpit. I ain't using that no more.
I ain't gonna use that no more. I ain't using no Nike. I just done it.
I ain't
just don't done it
no more.
I just don't done it.
Well, I bought these things from Nike and then I ruined them.
You know what's hilarious is he winds up cutting his wristbands and his headbands, but then he says, I just bought my last pair of Nike shoes. He is not cutting up his shoes. He's cutting up inexpensive wristbands. I mean, not inexpensive because it's Nike. So it's going to be a little expensive, but it's certainly not shoe expensive.
Well, can I ask you, like, he's got a wristband and he's got wristbands. And are you picturing him in like full jazzercise gear.
I just think every time he works out, he looks like John McEnroe.
Right? That's what I was picturing too. Was like, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw somebody wearing like a headband and wristbands. Like it was my dad playing racquetball in 1988.
That's amazing. When
like
I work
knee
out,
socks.
When I work out, I wear a skull cap. And so I always look like a Muslim when I work out. Because I have a big ass beard and a skull cap. I think it's great.
Oh my God.
It's good shit. Yeah. But one interesting byproduct of this, Tom, is that Nike sales grew reportedly 31% over the Labor Day weekend based on this ad with Colin Kaepernick in it. And the Colin Kaepernick is the guy who took a knee when he was playing for San Francisco and then basically couldn't get hired afterwards by any football team because he was just so toxic. Nobody wanted to hire him.
Was he a good player?
You know, it's interesting. I had a conversation about this recently, and my initial reaction to that was, you know, I didn't think he was super great, but the person came back with a comment that it was all about the coaching. And I thought, you know, no. What he said was,
if we can keep him healthy.
We can keep him healthy. What he said is that the team that he was on, so he did not excel as a quarterback with the team he had, but that team was not very good. And so it's hard to know whether or not he would have excelled in other places. But I will say this: I looked at the list of quarterbacks that were chosen as second string quarterbacks, the quarterbacks that come in if the other one's hurt.
Okay,
I looked at a list of people that were signed instead of Colin Kaepernick, and I looked at that list and I was like, no, someone should have signed him as a backup quarterback somewhere.
Right,
but I think he was just too hot to handle. Because
aren't a lot of guys taking these? He's just the first guy.
He was the first guy. He was the one who ate a lot of shit about it, and he wouldn't stop doing it. And so there are some, but I don't think there's a ton. As I
thought it was
remember.
a whole thing.
There was not like a whole bunch of them. There was a few, and some teams banned it. One of the things though too that we do with these people is we say you can only protest in your designated area.
Yeah, in your designated way.
Here's your designated area. It's going to be behind this curtain. You're going to have to wear this muffle over your mouth so I never have to hear or see it. He's not flashing something. He's not pulling out his dick during the national anthem.
He's not pissing on the flash.
He's not, dropping a deuce on the sidelines during the national anthem. He's kneeling. It's not offensive.
Right.
People find offense in this in some crazy way when there's no reason to be offended by it. It's somebody's personal actions. If I choose not to stand for the national anthem, that's on me, man.
Yeah, man, but it's the quiet dignity and power of that kind of of protest that is upsetting to people, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to dismiss a group of people who steal TVs and set buildings on fire, right? Yeah. Like that is legitimately easy to dismiss. Right? But somebody who calls attention to an important issue in a dignified, quiet, respectful way, it's like, fuck, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
How do I minimize that? What do I do to make that smaller?
Yeah.
Like, and that's why that's so powerful. And that's why that's so problematic. And like, that's why that inspires people to such like levels of vitriol over something so small.
Yeah.
Because it's so much more difficult to be like, fuck, that's not even uppity. What do I do with that? It's not even uppity.
How do I handle that?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what, are you going to learn to read next?
Yeah.
You're going to get good credit and learn to swim?
Yeah.
Well, fuck.
Yeah.
I can't.
I think that, when the people see that and they see them, not standing up for the national anthem, I feel pressured to stand up for the national anthem. Everybody feels pressured. You feel when they say
it's
all
intentional.
Rise,
yeah,
you have to do it. Like people don't understand that if they live out of this country. They don't understand because I don't know if you have to do that in other countries, but you sure as fuck need to do that here.
Yeah,
like if you go to any stadium,
social pariah, you
have to do it.
Yeah,
if you don't stand up,
you're no good for you.
It's not going to be good for you, man. There's going to be people around you who are going to be outwardly pissy with you. You might get harassed. You might get physically assaulted.
Yeah.
There's a possibility.
You're not enjoying your day at the game anymore.
I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah. You might get beat up, beers thrown at you, whatever.
Absolutely. There's a possibility.
Yeah.
So I feel like I feel pressure already to stand for the national anthem.
Yeah.
So kudos to you to be out in front of everybody.
Fucking right.
And then take a knee for that.
And risk your career.
Yeah.
Risk your career.
Risk your career. And I'm glad that he got enough money from this thing to, that there's money. That there's money here. There's money for him to have, because I think that, it's a powerful thing for him to do. Standing up for he did it for police violence, for violence against Black Americans,
right?
By the police. That's why he did it.
And it's just raising awareness.
Yeah.
This is just raising awareness of the issue and saying, like, I am going to create some controversy. We cannot ignore this issue.
He didn't wear like a full bodysuit of Philando Castile after he'd been shot.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he didn't wear that.
He didn't like come out onto the field like fuck the police play.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. He just took a knee. But people really flipped their shit over. I mean, you want to talk about, but I will say this. One thing that this does do, though, is this is bread and circuses that keeps us off of really important issues. Mm-hmm. And I will say that, so many pundits talk about this, but then so does the president all the time. The president tweets about this in the NFL. He loves to tweet about this. This is something that I think he absolutely adores.
Oh, this is great for him. This is a gift.
It's a perfect way to deflect any kind of real criticism from him.
Yeah.
Because this is an opinion thing.
And his base is on the other side.
Absolutely,
100%, right?
100%.
So when this happens, like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
This will distract you from all the failures I have in all my policy positions.
I don't understand why we have to build a ray gun to aim at a planet I never even heard of.
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
Go! Oh, I love this story. I want to talk about this from Vox. Why Susan Collins claims she's being bribed over her Kavanaugh vote. This is awesome. I love this. So there are a couple of women Republicans that are pretty pro-choice, and Susan Collins is one of them.
Yeah.
And so there is some hope that she may vote no on Kavanaugh. She may not. She's not declared, I don't think, either. She
hasn't decided yet.
But there's a crowdfunding campaign that's raised a bunch of money, and here's the genius of this. And then I want to talk about her objection, because this is all so interesting to me. So they raised a bunch of money and they said, look, here's the deal. If you vote no on the Kavanaugh vote, everybody who donated, it's over $1 million. Everybody who donated just gets their money back.
Yeah.
If you vote yes, this money goes to whoever opposes you.
Yeah.
Just want you to know.
Right.
So there's no bribe, right? So what she's saying,
it's not that she's saying, because she's saying there's a bribe.
That there's a de facto bribe, right?
It's not.
That there's $1 million threat, which is looming over her, and that constitutes a bribe. And it's like, we allow this if it's a corporation. We allow lobbies to constantly give money through super PACs and that is clearly, they're not giving this money to the candidate just to give this money to the candidate
friends
because they're buddies. Yeah. So federal law defines the crime of bribery as corruptly offering anything of value to a public official, including a member of Congress, with the intent to influence any official act.
Nobody's offering her anything.
So yeah, what they're saying is like, we'll just look, everybody gets their money back. You're not getting the $1 million.
Nobody's offering you anything.
And she's bitching that, look,
they're offering it to the person who's going to be opposing it.
Yeah. So there is
the person who has no
pressure
power in this situation.
I love this because this allows the people, the constituency, to exert a kind of financial pressure.
Yeah. It's a crowdfunded lobby.
Right.
It's a lobby.
We need this.
Yeah.
This is the only way that we can crowdfund from a grassroots perspective, that we can exert financial pressure that has any of the kind of impact that corporations exert through these super PACs. The super PACs are much more overt. The super PAC is like, we're just going to give you a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Also, I'm Bristol Myers Squibb. So, winky face if you see a fucking Bristol Myers Squibb bill come
across that could influence us. You see it all the time when these people when they start voting on things, and you can see how their voting pattern matches exactly sort of the funding that they get.
Right.
It's outrageous. I mean, it's clearly it's transparent.
It's bribery.
It's transparent bribery. And it happens all the time. What's interesting is I think that there's going to be a rule against this campaign finance reform type of thing against this.
But not against the super PAC.
Not against any of the other stuff.
Man, if that happens, I'll lose it won't do any good, but I will lose my shit.
I'll bet you they do. I bet you they put something, if this goes through, if she on her principles, I think no matter how this plays out, whether she decides on her principles to not do it and they give that money to that other candidate, or she does it and she's pressured to vote in this particular way, I feel like there is going to be some push after that happens to make this illegal.
Man, I hope not, because like we're always being told since we were in civics class as kids that like you have to make your voice heard. You have to make your voice heard. But that's bullshit, right? There's one way to make your voice heard, two ways. You can vote. That's the first way you can make your voice heard, and then you can give money.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Calling and leaving a message on someone's answering machine, writing a letter. No one gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. That, when compared to some fucking big corporation that donates $150,000 to a fundraiser dinner.
Right.
Hold on, my secretary wrote down that Tom said he's mad. Who cares?
Yeah.
I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care, and I'm me. It would be my message, and I would delete it.
Yeah.
Who cares? Money, it talks. It's the only thing. It's the only thing. But like, what's super exciting to me is like, we can aggregate our money now differently. This is voice, right? We decided, for all of its fucking horrifying flaws, Citizens United decided that money is a kind of voice.
Yeah.
They said that.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a high bar to climb if we say that the people cannot aggregate their money to elevate their voice. And man, if we do this, there is a possibility that we could matter again.
Yeah.
Like we could actually matter again.
Could change some serious stuff. Now, one thing you got to point out is that the $1 million doesn't guarantee that the person who she's running against gets any benefit, really.
Right. It doesn't.
You know what I mean? It doesn't guarantee anything.
Yeah. Money doesn't win elections necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily. It helps.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily win the election for you. And she's an incumbent, and there's part of me that wonders if she's going to vote how she votes. I don't think this is going to influence her.
I don't think so either. I think she just resents the pressure.
She definitely resents the pressure, though. And I think that I also think that money will be probably wasted in a place that it might not.
But you know what's interesting is that it's enough pressure to resent.
It's enough pressure to mention.
Right, because if it was just phone calls, they wouldn't mean anything.
They wouldn't care.
There's no real pressure.
They wouldn't care.
Right.
It's funny that they don't call that pressure, though.
Yeah.
The phone calls, the calling and whatever.
That's what should matter.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. It's like none of that means anything.
So we are joined by MJ Mouton from
nicely done.
Yeah, and he is the author of the Tiny Thinkers books. He's the one with the crawdad pen we had on before, and we would like to talk to him tonight about his brand new book that came out. Carl Went to the Library.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us, MJ.
I was hoping I could be in Glory Hole Studios, but what I did is I found a rest area in Pontiac, Illinois, and I went into
oh my God.
I went into one of the stalls there. So we're recording live from Tiny Thinker Studio now.
Also equipped with a glory hole in the rest
Pontiac,
area.
Illinois. Oh my gosh, you're going to get some one eyes out there, and not one-eyed willies. Let me tell you,
and not a brown eye either. Although maybe I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Wow.
I'm trying to figure out who are all these people that go to the toilet with Sharpies.
Yeah.
I carry a Sharpie in my rectum just for these sorts of occasions.
I have a job that requires a Sharpie, and I don't carry a Sharpie into the
Wait a minute,
restroom.
what job requires a Sharpie?
I'm a project manager for an environmental company, so I sometimes go out in the field and we have survey stakes and stuff like that. So I do those things as well.
He has to put graffiti up everywhere.
Hey, just tagging shit. You're just tagging shit, and you're trying to pretend that's your job. That's not your job, MJ.
MJ's got a really elaborate tag with
MJ
the M and
Banksy.
the J in there.
Yeah, everyone who writes inside of a bathroom stall loves Jesus, hates black people, and can't spell.
Yeah, that fits. Like if you're the kind of guy taking a shit like, well, Should probably share my thoughts now.
I just want to go into bathroom stalls and leave web addresses. Like,
yes, I don't do that already. So good.
Like,
moving on.
Yeah,
moving on.
This is my favorite glory hole porn right here.
I travel to. I bring a Sawzall.
Nice.
Myself, you know,
nice. Then you could just cut a. We might as well just bring one of those hole saw drills or just a regular drill bit. I think would be fine. For
like a 3/4 inch.
Yeah, 3/4 inch drill. You'd be good.
Now I got plenty of room on the outside. It's a diameters issue.
Tell us a little bit about the book. Tell us what the premise is.
All right, the premise is Carl Went to the Library is a true story about Carl Sagan. When Carl Sagan was 5 years old, he asked his mother, "What is a star?" And rather than just give him an answer, his mother gave him a library card and sent him to the public library to find the answer.
Oh, lazy parenting is the best.
That is the best way to do it.
Oh my God. When my kids ask me for food, I just give them a whisk.
Now she would just be like, go to the internet.
Right?
And then he's looking up porn.
Like, what's a vagina here? It's on Pornhub already.
It's fine. I got them bookmarked.
But it is a true story. And Carl went to the library. He asked the librarian, "Hey, I need a book about stars." And the librarian went and first got him a book about celebrities. And he was like, "No, dumbass, I need the stars."
And she's like, "We have billions and billions of them."
Yeah. So she brings him the right book, and that's an absolute true story about Carl Sagan. Probably a lot of people who know your show know who Michael Shermer is. He wrote the foreword for this story. And, and in there, he explains that that's one of his favorite stories about Carl Sagan, why I wrote the book, because it was one of my favorite, because he had two inspiring moments at about the same time. One was going to the library and looking up what is a star. And the other one was, it just so happened that the World's Fair was in New York at the time, and it was called The Future of Tomorrow. So many people might have heard Neil deGrasse Tyson's YouTube thing, The World of Tomorrow, The Future of Tomorrow, The World of Tomorrow. And that's based off of that World's Fair and Carl Sagan, going to that. So the book is an absolute true story, aside from the fact that we throw some personified dog in there, whose name is Hitch, and there's some other talking animals. It has kids in the book. Every kid that's in this book is a real kid somewhere.
Is there a talking snake at any point? Because that's a true story.
I'm not sure if that's a true story, but I have. So kids, whenever they look at this book, some kids are really too young to understand the science. So we do things in the book. We have this character, the protagonist in all the books, his name's Hitch. And so he might be really small on a page or really big on a page, and you have to try to find him and point him out. And so for kids that are a little bit younger, they enjoy that because there's things in the book that's you can look at. Well, I posted one page on Twitter, and Hitch is really, really small in the background. And one of the Twitter followers said, "Hey, is that a hooker washing windows back there?"
And you were like, yeah. That's an Easter egg, actually.
It's an homage to the hooker I pay every week to wash my windows. Thank you very much.
She's
for noticing.
my muse. I'm not supposed to come up with these ideas on my own.
But now, like, every time I post something about this book coming out, this person comes on there and says, "Hey, I'm not buying this book until you put a hooker washing windows in it." So somewhere I'm going to have to squeak it in there.
That's a fair stipulation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is an entirely fair
I have a book idea for you, MJ.
Okay, go ahead.
What I want you to do is I want you to make a very accurate and adorable Noah's Ark story where everybody dies, where all the kids are dying, where all the all the puppies are dying and the babies are drowning, and there's just like a serene look on Noah's face as he seals up the door to trap everybody on the earth to drown. And then, I think an adorable, very literal translation of the Noah's Ark story would sell like hotcakes in the atheist community.
Absolutely. And we put a rainbow in it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Because God gave that to Noah way before gay people co-opted it.
Right.
You know,
like somebody's like, "I'm going to drown." It's like, well, I'm going to give somebody else a rainbow. Like, what the fuck?
Later on,
what am I going to do with a rainbow?
I'll diffract light.
Right. Yeah.
I think that would sell like hotcakes in the atheist community, though.
It may. It would sell well in both communities.
Yeah, that's the thing. You sell it ironically and unironically. That's the win, dude.
That would be the win. If you could create something that like it's like an Onion article that people actually believe.
Right.
Like, that is amazing.
You
Like,
know
that
what?
would be
Write it in Russia.
Yeah.
And then, because that's where a lot of these stories. Anyway, so, all right. So you're on your third Tiny Thinkers book. How many have you written?
I wrote 60 books and only 40 of them are like good.
What's the next one in the docket after this one?
It's Rachel Carson. It's called Rachel Here's a Song. It's about basically Rachel Carson.
Silent
Spring, yeah. And there's a personified crow in there who can't sing for shit. And
does it die?
It's a
I hope it dies.
Its babies die.
Babies die.
No. That
has nothing to eat because all the insects are dead. I'm terrible at writing these books.
I think you're great at writing these books. It'd be fucked up.
Oh, Jesus.
The crow lives.
Boo. Spoiler.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah, don't buy the
That's
book
not
now.
America. Black things don't live in America.
Oh, nice. Well, there's no cop birds, so it's fine.
There's like a legal eagle that comes by and kills him. Jesus.
But I do think I successfully wrote a kid's book about DDT, which the world needs.
Because I'm waiting for the one that you had mentioned. The one that I was really excited about is there was an African American who created something for a fire department.
Yeah, like the gas mask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be book number 5, but we got to sell book number 3, a lot of them first, and then we'll get to book number 5.
Subtle.
Which is Garrett Morgan, and that is probably my wife and kids' favorite story because Garrett Morgan is like a real hero. You know, we look at Iron Man and Batman as superheroes, but they didn't really have any superpowers. They just had some really cool suits. Well, Garrett Morgan invented this really cool suit where he could go into basically a room on fire, or what in his case, he went into a tunnel explosion in 1916 and started pulling bodies out. So this is 1916, and his invention later was picked up by the U.S. Army and became basically the basis for the gas mask.
That's tremendous.
Which, this guy saved probably hundreds of thousands of lives, over the course of time, and is hardly recognized in history. And it's a fantastic story about all the things that this guy went through. He couldn't sell his product to white people due to racist reasons. People just didn't want to buy his product. So what he used to do is dress up as an Indian, and he would hire a white actor to pretend to be the owner of his company, and he would demonstrate the products as an Indian to sell it. And it wasn't until
so easy,
after
even a savage could do it.
Yeah.
Hey, I own a house in Aurora, Illinois, and it's an old house. It's over 100 years old, and I ripped out the plaster walls inside, and inside is like a treasure trove of racist and historical things both. There were some things in there was terrible. One of those things was a Singer sewing machine advertisement that had some Native Americans on it, and it really said that on the front. It said, this sewing machine is so easy that even Indians can use it.
Oh, must be really easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So, MJ, if people were going to find this book somewhere, where are they going to find it?
You can find this book wherever books are sold, because one of the successful things we did is our books is carried by one of the largest book distributors in the world. So you can buy this book worldwide, no matter what country you're in. If they don't carry it on the shelves in a bookstore, you can go up to the front, say, order this book. They'll have it in a day, maybe 2 at the max. Or you can just go on Amazon, but a lot of people don't like to contribute to the $1 trillion business there. My preference, though, is to find some local bookstore, and always support your local bookstores.
Well, if you send us a link, we'll put it on this week's show notes so people know what the book looks like, and they can direct people to purchase the book at their local bookstore. MJ, thank you for joining us. Good luck with this book. I know I'm going to buy a copy for my nephew, and I'm looking forward to it coming out.
I'm going to pre-order one now.
All right, and just before we go, if the best way to find me is always to find me on Twitter, at MJ_Mouton, or my real name is actually Mario. So if you put Mario J. Mouton or MJ Mouton in any social media, you'll likely find me there. And find me, follow me, and I write lots of historical things on my Twitter. So my Twitter feed is I Hate Donald Trump. Here's something really historically awesome, and recipes.
I love it. That's
great, man.
Thank you so much for joining us today, MJ.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So we want to thank our patrons, but we want to thank our most recent patrons, of course. Philip, Robert, Feminist as Fuck, Rob, Blargle, Flargle, Gargle. That's old school.
Yeah, it is.
Rusty Trombone, Timothy, Tamara, The Leopard and the Lily Historical Podcast, Killer Cotton, Ivan, Brian, Freethinker 215, Easy Score, Nicole, Joe, Chris, Steven, Craig, Puss Merkin.
Oh, God. That's so gross.
What the fuck?
That's fucked up.
Well, thanks so much for your generous donations. We really do genuinely appreciate it. Thank you so much. I want to talk about a little bit of email we got. We got a message from Devin, and Devin sent this. This is after we were talking about the prison thing. He had said that basically he's like, he doesn't think that giving people a life sentence, he actually agrees with how they're doing it in Norway with Breivik, where you don't get, you have a possibility of parole, but there's always going to be a parole board that basically can push you back into prison. He says, he doesn't like the life sentence without possibility of parole because people that are in prison, they might not, they might, if there's a chance that they can get out, they might actually wind up being able to change or at least be better criminals in prison.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like be better prisoners.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting point about behavior while you're inside and promoting good behavior while you're inside.
Oh my gosh, Tom, I've got to play this video for you. This is a Brian Kemp ad he's in Georgia. He's running for governor. I just watched.
What am I going to watch? A campaign ad?
It's a campaign ad. It's amazing.
I'm Brian Kemp. I'm so conservative. I blow up government spending. I own guns that no one's taking away. My chainsaw's ready to rip up some regulations. I got a big truck just in case I need to round up criminal illegals and take them home myself. Yep, I just said that. I'm Brian Kemp. If you want a politically incorrect conservative, that's me.
What is happening?
What's amazing is I've never seen a guy in a more pressed, beautiful flannel shirt threatening to lock up illegals by himself with his lots of guns or whatever.
Put illegals in my truck and what? Just drive them around?
Well, here's the thing, like it's not like it's a prison truck. It's just a pickup. They'll just jump out. Or if you don't have work, if you have work, they might follow you.
Yeah,
they might actually say, you can go to Home Depot and pick some of them up. But the thing is you watch that video and you see that guy. He just looks so pressed and clean. And when he starts that chainsaw, you're just I'm you probably don't work a lot. You probably don't.
I got this chainsaw I'm not real familiar with.
It's just so funny because it's just
my illegals use this to cut the trees in my yard.
What is amazing is that you see this guy who it almost feels like he's pulling a fast one on the hillbillies.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like he's I wouldn't be surprised if that accent was even faked.
I wouldn't be it's like what are like the top 5 country music tropes?
Exactly. That is exactly it. A chainsaw.
Yeah. If he had a hound dog, that would have been it.
If he had a hound dog, the end of all.
He should have done a slug of whiskey.
Amazing.
Pet his hound dog.
So you guys were talking, this is from Nathan. He says, you guys were talking about shitty Jello-based foods and maybe this series of articles from Cracked. And I clicked on this earlier and I regretted it. 6 gross foods from 50s cookbooks that we taste tested.
Oh, what is that?
It's like a fucking bologna that they dug out and stuck fucking
lima beans in it, or what is in there?
Gross pea thing in there, and then they have I got to get to the blue cheese one. That was just disgusting. Blue cheese mousse.
What?
Oh, it looks so disgusting. Look at how gross that is. It looks so disgusting. I'm going to put a link on this week's show notes. I'm going to put a link on this week's show notes. Fluffy mackerel pudding. And then the last one is banana meatloaf.
What is
It's got raw beef, chopped onion, salt, pepper, breadcrumbs, mashed bananas, and dry mustard.
Whoa,
it sounds so bad. That sounds disgusting. So anyway, we'll put a link on this week's show notes if you want to gross yourself out. Thanks, Nathan. asshole. Got a message from Thomas, and he says, Liz Crokin. My favorite part of this is not the email itself. It's the title of the email. Liz Crokin's Crokin. He talks about a phenomenon called vocal fry. Then he links to a link in NPR. But it is actually really funny that the name of the email is Liz Crokin's Crokin. We got a message from Charlie, and Charlie says he was listening to 431, and we were talking about landing ships in Manchester. Did we say ships? I thought we said troops.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember. But he's like, I'd say given that it's 30 miles inland, it would be difficult to squeeze warships up the Manchester Canal. Look, we've been squeezing tight things into tight spaces. America's been doing that for a long time.
Enough lube, we can get right up your Manchester.
Yeah. And look, we've taken over a lot of Middle East countries. We got plenty of oil. So we can just get right into your Manchester there.
And if you'd like to get into the Manchester, you can go to adamandeve.com. Enter Gloria checkout, take 50% off almost any item, get a free gift and a free sex swing, and get right up that Manchester.
Yeah, and you can do the Manchester. All right, so we got an image. This is an excellent image. Somebody had gone to the trouble. I guess Trump had recently done this pose where he's got his hands up like this, and he's doing that sort of like, I don't know, like
gritty
biting
over to his face,
biting his lower lip or whatever. Anyway, that was Photoshop. Somebody had cut out the entire background around it.
It's so great.
People have been posting it everywhere in a bunch of different things. And so it's Trump with his hands up, biting his lower lip, and it's really adorable. So check it out. It's on this week's show notes.
It's a great picture.
It's a great picture sent in by Aaron. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We want to mention to everybody who's a patron and to anybody who wants to be a patron that we're going to be doing a Discord show on the 29th. We want to mention it early.
Yep. Saturday the 29th.
Saturday the 29th. We're not quite sure exactly what time it's going to be, but it'll probably be in the early afternoon. So that'll allow people from overseas and in other parts of the world to listen along as well. So if you want to listen to our Discord show, and Discord is great because Discord allows us to really interact on a very, very short, a very, very quick way with the audience. There's not a lot of lag or a delay in the interactions that we have with the audience. So people type stuff and right away you're able to interact with it. And we had a great time.
They're a lot of fun. These events are fun.
We had a great time. So we'll probably be posting the show to patrons after it happens, but we do full shows on Discord with patrons. We cover several stories. And we have a chance to kid around and joke around. So if you want to join in the fun, either become a patron or just check out how to join Discord as a patron. And you can join our Discord channel. And we're going to try to put on one of these as often as we can. We're aiming for every month. We're not sure that's going to happen, but we're aiming for every month. But the 29th of this month, we're definitely going to have one. So join us then. We want to thank MJ Mouton for joining us tonight. He's the author of Tiny Thinkers. You can check out his new book, Carl Went to the Library. It's going to be coming out in bookstores very soon. We're going to put a link to his Twitter and to his project on this week's show notes. Check it out. He's a great guy and puts together some really great children's books. That's going to wrap it up for this week, but we're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death in towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.